Hi everyone, welcome to the demo for August month. So we have a very different kind of artist this one, Karen Shah. So we have a very highly privileged to have Karen Shah as our artist today. As you can see, there are amazing works from her. So about Karen Shah, so it's she has a very interesting background. So she did not study art but she learned art by in her profession, and she has very interesting professions. I'm like I was very it was very interesting to talk to her when I met her on Saturday to set up the demo trial. So though she didn't have the degree, but she started painting as in the early 2000, and she was a veterinary nurse and also massager therapist, and more than anything, so she was also into acting in LA. So we have someone now who has an acting career in LA and giving us a demo. So it's very interesting for us. So because of our profession, her style also varies. So you can see still life and also a lot of pet portraits. And now she's a full-time artist. Now she lives in Sacramento. So Karen was ready to come to the Bay Area for the demo. We miss her thing in a person, but we are going to have her show the complete demo today of a still life of an apple. And before that, so we're going to look at some of the Karen's artworks and how she goes about doing them in acrylics. And also she has a step-by-step method of how she's going to show the apple to us, the apple portrait to us. So now over to you, Karen. We can. So Karen, do you want us to show the? Do you want me to show the PDF first?
Certainly. I'm not sure how to do this. I'm going to just push the canvas back for a moment and show you the colors that I'm working with, if that helps. And I like to use Golden, that is the brand, heavy body acrylic. And here I've got, can you see my palette? Okay. So I've got titanium white, which I use quite a lot of. This is quinacridone magenta, which is a really gorgeous color. It's very pigment heavy. It's kind of pinky. Across from it, I have naphthol red medium, which is a more closer to primary red. It's not quite as potent as the other, but it certainly has its uses because it's a warmer red. This is ultramarine blue, which by itself tends to be rather transparent. It's a cool blue, meaning it goes a little more toward purple. This is cadmium yellow medium, very just wonderful solid yellow. And this is phthalo blue green shade, which is a beautiful color if you're going to do a painting of a peacock, because it's a very, very, it's like a Mediterranean, very live blue. And it's also very pigment rich, as just like the quinacridone magenta that I mentioned. And so I am going to show you the apple. And my apologies, there's not really, the frame isn't really set up such that you can see both the canvas and the apple. But so my apologies on that. I don't have a proper full-on studio. I'm working from my kitchen table. So I appreciate your patience on that.
Would you like to show would you like me to show the PDF first before you start painting?
The media?
The file you have sent about all your works. The PowerPoint, the PDF document you have sent. Do you want to?
Sure. If you'd like, that would be fine.
Yeah, let's do that, and then we can get started. Let me bring that up. Printing step for Apple, and there which is the other one. Demo. Oh yeah, you have the materials and the painting set. Okay, I thought you would have had more works in it. Let me share the material list here. One second.
Yeah, so this is just, I kind of outlined, again, the colors that I use and what someone would need for this particular painting. I wasn't really sure exactly how many would be artists and how many would not have painted very much. It sounds like you're all artists, obviously, but I used to teach at the Painted Cork, which is a place where people who don't typically paint go in, and we lead them through a painting step by step. So I hope that's acceptable. That was kind of my the style that I learned. And I just have some terms here, and most of you I'm sure know these values, which are lights and darks, cooler versus warmer colors, the muted colors, which are basically colors that have been a bit muddied in a couple of different ways, either with gray, black, or white, or a contrasting color, highlight, midtones, and deep tones or shadows on the actual object. I'm sure you're probably familiar with these. And then the cast shadow, which if you're doing a painting of an object, it's really important, because without it, the object tends to look like it's kind of floating in space. So it kind of nails it to the surface that it's on. And I've got some techniques here. One thing that I've been asked when working with acrylic, because acrylic dries so quickly, it can be rather challenging to do some blending. And first of all, you've probably all seen paintings that you really like where things are very bold and they're not blended perfectly. So the happy thing is perfect blending is not the be all end all, but there are some ways here of addressing that. What I do quite a lot is I'll create a bridge color. So as an example, if I had, say, a yellow and a deep green next to each other, and I want to soften that border, obviously I'd make a lighter green. It's important to remember, of course, that acrylic does dry darker. So if you match something that's already dry and you think you have it matched, it's going to dry dark. It won't be exactly the same color. And that can be very frustrating. But if you keep that in mind, that will help. And sometimes I do dry brushing, which is having very little paint on the actual brush, such that it just, it doesn't create a very solid coat of it. And oh, and I love to tell people we are not too old to finger paint. If you put a tiny bit of paint and then just smear it with your finger, that also kind of softens that edge. Another technique to do is you can use a little bit of extra water, and that way you're doing more of a wash really than a solid opaque coat. If you do catch the paint while it's still wet, you can grab just another little dot of whatever you want to move it into. If you have some red going, for example, and you want to head toward orange, you can grab just a tiny bit of yellow and then fuzz that, and then maybe a little bit more yellow, and then do that out. Why don't I do just a little bit of a demo on that right now? Would that be okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me, yeah, I think I'll just put spotlight only on the painting. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to start with a little quinacridone magenta. As I said, it's a very pinky red. And it is a gorgeous color, really, really pretty. Great for flowers and such. So if I've got that, and that obviously that's still wet, and obviously trying to drag it, trying to do this technique may not work for bigger, pieces or bigger areas. But so I've got that, and then I do that. So that's one way of blending as well. So you have that very softened kind of back and forth. But again, as I love to tell people, perfect blending is not the be all end all. So since I've already got some paint on my canvas, let's see, was there anything else on that sheet, Shubha, before I go ahead and go into the demo? Or
yeah, I think this should be fine. Any questions? Any from the artists? Any questions for Karen?
yeah, and I'm just gonna check the chat, so I don't want to leave anyone.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so my first step in painting this apple, you can either use pencil for this, or because acrylic is very forgiving and you can paint over it. It's both a blessing and a curse that you can adjust it kind of, you know, eternally. Sometimes that can make it hard to know when you're done, though. So I'm just going to get some, I'm just going to grab both of my reds. Apples can have both pinky reds and warmer reds heading toward orange. Now, both of my reds by themselves, even with some yellow, I feel like it's a little bit, it's an awfully pure color. It's almost too red. So I'm just going to grab a tiny, tiny bit of blue just to make it a little bit muddier. Most tones in nature tend to be just a little bit muddy. So yeah, there we go. So it's a little bit more of a brownish red. And you don't have to do it this way, but I tend to kind of start from something that's more or less realistic, and you can always dress it up as you like. In terms of composition, I do not like to have things perfectly centered, just because it's more interesting when things are a little bit off center. There's a little bit more tension in your painting. So right now I'm just pushing around this color. I'm just drawing the apple, really. I'm drawing with paint. That's really all I'm doing. And let's see, how big do I want to make this? So that's out there. And apples, or any organic item, is really fun because there's a lot of, they're not a perfectly symmetrical shape. And so there's lots of bumps, there's variations, and they just tend to be rather interesting for that reason. I'm going to push this guy over here, a little bit over there, push him up there. And I'm nervous, so thanks for your patience. Again, I'm just kind of filling this out. Tapers down a little bit. I have this little, there we go. And there's kind of a softened corner right about there. Okay. And apples certainly have rounded places, but they also have kind of corners and planes. So that's happily, that makes it a lot more interesting when you're creating their shape. There's lots of variations.
Karen, there's a question in the chat. Usually when we use blue over yellow, it will turn green. How did you manage to save that to happen?
The shade that I'm having, I added blue and it still looks red. Yeah. Because I added very little blue to it, just enough so it basically calmed down the red. Most tones in nature are muddied, so there's a little of everything going on. And I'll actually show you an example a little later of how one of my reds and one of my blues, we were all kind of grew up with the idea that red and blue make purple. Well, it actually depends on your red, depends on your blue. If I mix, and I really want to show this to you because this is always kind of fascinating to me. I'm going to mix just a little of the Naphthol red medium, the warmer red that I mentioned, with the phthalo blue green shade, and it makes a very serviceable black.
Wow.
Yeah, works really well. So, in fact, I seldom use actual black paint. I have it, but even when painting, doing a painting of something that, like a black dress that's been dyed black and it really is black, if you look, I mean, because of the way light acts, you'll see all kinds of colors. So anyway, and let's see, was there another, just want to see if there's any other questions. Oh, thank you for your question. The one question, do I tint the background before I start painting still life? I do like to start with, what happened? I do like to start with having my entire canvas painted some color. Something that is maybe the most common color, or in this case, just to have paint on the canvas, and I can obviously I can change that later on. I thought a pale gold would just be a nice, pleasing contrast against a red apple. And then let me see. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Great questions. And thank you. Please don't hesitate if there's another question. Okay. So yeah, I seldom use actual black, and I feel like this apple is rounder than I like, so I want to give them a little more personality. Okay, so I'm going to call that a decent shape right now, and I am just going to mark. I'm not worried too much about the actual color. I'm still drawing, and I'm just going to grab a little bit of a paler color. Doesn't really matter what. I just want to kind of mark where the stem and the hollow below the stem is. And in the view I'm looking at, it's roughly a quarter of the way down. And I need a little bit more white because that red's still wet and it's showing up like crazy. Okay. And then I'm just going to mark the stem. It kind of comes out at this angle right here. We were talking about mixing blues and yellows to make green. One nice thing about the ultramarine blue is if you mix that with yellow, you tend to get a little more organic green. It's not quite as neon or emerald as if I were to say use the phthalo blue. That gives you a really gorgeous green, but sometimes you need a muted green. You often do for nature. So, okay. So again, I realize this was very, very kind of quick. I just want to get that. Okay, and I can finesse that. So this doesn't look like much, and no painting ever does in the beginning. When I worked at the Painted Cork, I always had to tell people, you have to, hang in there. I promise it'll look better when you're almost done. So I've got the basic color more or less filled in. And what I'm going to do next, I'm looking at the apple and looking for places where it is darker. And so I'm going to really, I'm mixing right now some of the Naphthol red medium with the ultramarine blue. And this is going to give me some darker tones because it's lights and darks that give you the illusion of that you're looking at a three-dimensional item when you know you're looking at a flat two-dimensional canvas. Now, even though acrylic is, broadly speaking, it is an opaque medium rather than a transparent one, I'm sure those of you who have worked with it have noticed how, one coat doesn't always cover. Well, in the case of doing something like an apple, that's okay, because apples have lots of little stripes. And in fact, I'm kind of keeping my brush work in the same direction as those stripes work. And just at the border, that's a little bit darker. Maybe a little blue, just right, really make that dark. And all the little stripes tend to kind of funnel into that hole, that little hollow where the stem is. And just at the edge, I'm going to boost that. Okay. Also, one thing that when you need to change colors, rather than go ahead rinsing your brush immediately, I like to pull it through on a napkin. And that way you get rid of most of the paint and your water bowl goes a lot further. And okay, maybe just a little bit more dark right around here. Okay. Oh, yes, someone is asking, what are the two colors I use to get that black? And yeah, great question. I use the Naphthol red medium and the phthalo blue green shade. Now, just to give you another little demo on how if you get the right blue and the right red, you can get a really gorgeous purple. Now this, you can see it's more purple, and you almost need a little bit more, almost need just a little bit of white, because those are so pigment rich. But can you see how that can be a really pretty purple, especially if you add even a little bit heavier on the quinacridone magenta. And again, just a little white so you can actually see what color it is I'm using. So quite a difference. Because those two are, between them, they don't have very much yellow at all. So they do make a nice vibrant purple. So just to recap, I started by just kind of drawing the apple and marking where the hollow and the stem is. And I went ahead and I put in some deeper tones. Oops, with for the shadow on the apple. So we're starting to see a little bit of shape to it. It's important. And obviously, depending on your light too, that can make a big difference. All right. Now this is very quick and dirty too. Once you kind of get everything done, you can go back and fine tune things depending on if you like it really impressionistic or super realistic. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of the basic highlights. So right around this area on the apple, it does definitely get warmer. And there's even a little bit of green, like right in the hollow. Oops. I think I'm dealing with wet paint still. All right. So right around here, yep, still wet. That's okay. That means we can blend, right? That's kind of what I was chatting about earlier. Okay, so deep in this hollow, it gets kind of a springy green, little bit. And there's this one little stripe that kind of comes out and curves up over the apple. And then one behind the stem, you can kind of push that back. And a few little things right there. And it's okay that the paint is still wet. And again, I want to make sure that I kind of go in the direction of all these little stripes with my brushwork. And that will help make it read right. If I went across like that, it wouldn't quite read right. Okay. Okay. And since I've got that wet, I'm going to go back with some, I'm mixing a little bit of the quinacridone magenta and white, and maybe just a touch of yellow. And I'm just going to smooth this out a little bit. Oops. So yeah, there's a little bit of almost a peach color right here. I'm kind of using my brush, which is a filbert, and it's rather flat. Let me get it against, there we go. You can see how it's flat versus rounded. And I'm kind of using it sideways so I can get some pretty skinny strokes that way. And there's a little bit. I'm kind of picking out a few stripes here and there.
So hi, Karen, I had a question about this. So you said that you are doing the blending on wet color. So
I am at the moment, yeah.
So when I have tried to do it, most of the time it happens like when I try to blend a color on already wet color, the whole color just comes off. Do you think I'm using too much force? I should use like a very light hand to do it?
Different colors are, some are, it's not always a 50-50 relationship. You say the paint is coming off when you try to do that?
Yeah.
It sounds like there might be a little more water than you need going on there. That's a possibility. Oh. Yeah, certainly. And yeah, it can be frustrating trying to catch things when they're just at the right wetness or dryness, especially when you're trying to. So yeah, believe me, I feel that pain. And I'm going to reinstate on my apple. There's a little bit of a darker, deeper red going on right there. And I don't want to lose that because I like the contrast. There we go. Let's see, what else? There we go. Yeah, organic things are really fun to paint because there are so many variations going on. Okay, and I'm just kind of touching up little edges to kind of make the make sure we have something of a gradient going on. And okay. There's a little bit more red there. Like I say, I'm not too old to finger paint. And you can also see, yeah, Shubha, I know what you mean because it's like right here, I can see the canvas texture very readily. So I want to go over that. It's fine to have, things don't have to be absolutely opaque, but I do want, there we go. I don't want to be too aware of the canvas either. I tend to paint very flatly. That's just kind of what my hand tends to do. So there, that's a little bit better. It's not quite as, now you're not so much aware of the canvas, you know, texture right there. So those are some of the basic contrasting colors. And then I'm now going to look for, what's really fun is because of the way light bounces off of every surface, and even surfaces that you might not think were reflective, like skin or a dull cloth, it's amazing how much those really do reflect all light all over the place. And so even though the light may be hitting this area of the apple, it's going to bounce off the table and we're going to get backlight towards the underside of it as well. And sometimes it's kind of tricky to make the decision of what color it actually is. So, which I suppose the good news is that means that it doesn't have to be super definite, but just something a little bit lighter. I am definitely seeing something like right here, and it's kind of greenish. And in terms of how am I making this, I use some red, doesn't really matter which one, red and yellow and blue, and then a little bit of white. And then I'm seeing another backlit area right about here. And there's definitely one like way down here. And this is kind of working nicely in that it is still a little bit wet. And so it allows me to blend a little bit. And there's a fairly strong backlit right on the edge of this apple right here, which you won't be able to see very well right now, but once we get the shadow in, that will show up a little better. So kind of a lot of times the backlit areas happen very close to or right at the edge. Now, right now I'm doing kind of I talked about dry brushing. There's not a lot of paint on my brush. So I just do like little feather touches really of and good old finger smear. Like I say, for me, it works very well. And I need to get that a little bit more pronounced right around there and there. I really think that sometimes because we are in fact working on a two-dimensional flat surface, and so we have to, I think, sometimes maybe overcompensate just a little bit when it comes to lights and darks, so to trick the eye into thinking we're looking at a three-dimensional item. So, okay. And I'm going to boost the stem a little bit. As you might guess, there are probably millions of ways to make brown. Orange with a touch of blue works really well. Really depends on what kind of brown you want. The stem is, to my eye, kind of a reddish brown, but I want to make sure it's different enough from the apple. Okay, so that's close by there. And then I'm going to use that black that I mentioned, which again was the Naphthol red medium and phthalo blue green shade, because I'm seeing this just a little tiny bit of a very dark kind of color to that stem right there. And then the very tip of the stem, I'm seeing just a little bit of That's not showing up very well. Some colors aren't the most opaque, and you might need to mix just a little bit of white with them. Ultramarine blue is very much like that. There we go. So just the tip of that stem there. It's got a little bit of punctuation. And I'm going to check my question. Let's see. Let's see. So the question was, is this color palette just for the red apple or your go-to palette? You know what? Great question. This is pretty much my go-to palette. I feel like I can make pretty much anything I need from these colors. I have bought a couple others now and again. Yeah, I have, like I say, I have a cool red and a pretty warm red and a cooler blue and a warmer blue. The yellow seems pretty solid, pretty middle of the road. So I feel like I can make quite a lot from that. I use white a lot because, you know, you seldom use the color pure strength. It just doesn't happen too awfully much unless you're going very, very bold, which that's fine too. And I want to boost a little bit of, yeah, give this apple some warmth. So these places where I've got this little green striping going on, I'm just going to maybe a lot of it where I see it. I took some yellow that was a little bit muddied and a touch of white just so it would show up.
Question.
Yes.
So among the three techniques which you mentioned, I'm just guessing the light is coming from behind you, right? For drawing this apple. That's where the light source is, right?
Mine actually is mostly above, and then I've got a smaller one off here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's from above and then slightly from the left side?
Yeah, I've got a small one from the left side. I'm trying not, I put it off screen so it wouldn't be distracting.
Okay.
So yeah, but that's a great question. I mean, yeah, the direction of your light source has a huge amount to do with how things play out. And I'm sorry,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now I see that among the couple of techniques which you used, I understand this one is you use the lines of the stripes as one of the depth creation technique. The other one is the value change, and then I think you also used a gradient of the color to give you the 3D. So I'm just wondering, why is there a darker rim around the one which is facing towards you?
This here?
No, not at the bottom, near the stem.
Oh, near the
Yeah.
stem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I apologize for the fact that you can't see the view of the apple. I didn't really think about that, but it is, for whatever reason, it is fairly, probably because, oh, you know what, that's a great question. Probably because the light is hitting right here.
Okay,
but
okay.
right here, it is starting to go into a hollow. So we're
It's bending down.
just starting to lose that light. So
I see.
that's a great observation though.
Okay.
Yeah, and also part of it too is just the apple truly does have more pigment in some places.
Mhm.
So this may not be so much a product of the light hitting it as I'm looking at the apple and yep, it just has more yellow
Yeah.
right there. So
Yeah, it's done beautifully. It looks like a caldera to me, the volcano, and a bigger scale, but it's beautifully done.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you kindly.
Yeah.
So I'm also noticing, we were talking, I was speaking of backlight earlier, and there's the very bottom here, which again, it won't really show up until I paint the cast shadow that's under it. But there's another little bit of backlight right at the bottom. And it might be even better that maybe I should wait on boosting that until I've got the cast shadow painted in, because things are very relative, as I'm sure you know. When it comes to color and lights and darks, things are very relative to what they're next to. You know, you have a medium tone against, you know, really pale, and it looks a lot darker than if you put it against a very dark tone. I think we've all seen those those kind of mind benders where we see the same exact shade and they put it near something and it's completely different. So now what's really fun, and what's really fun about apples is they're very, very shiny. Unlike, say, a kiwi. But
Can you explain what cast shadow is?
oh, certainly. I'm not quite there yet, but yeah, a cast shadow, the apple is on a surface, it's sitting on my table, and there are shadows on the apple itself where the light is not hitting because it's hitting up here and the underside doesn't get as much light. But the cast shadow is where the apple itself is blocking light that's getting to the table. And that's what I'm going to be doing in a couple steps. At the moment, as I mentioned, apples are super shiny. And the last time I did this painting, and you'll see it in the PDF that I created for this, some of the reflections actually were like a pale blue. I'm not really seeing that so much here, but definitely there are places where I can use absolute white. There's a little guy there and one here, and I'm just kind of touching, and it's okay if they're not a super crisp edge. Goodness. And let's see, there's one like right there. And again, you can kind of finger touch to soften the edges a little bit if you want, although it can be rather sharp. And then there's, this one does look just a little bit bluer. There's one a little below him. And actually the edge of this one is just a little blue. That's a big shiny place. And in full disclosure, I don't normally work with an apron. I use paint clothes and I just paint very, very messily. So, so I'm going to make the core of this guy right here just absolute white. So, because there are a few light sources going on. There's a light above me. Upper right, I've got the main kitchen light. So, and I'm sorry, I probably didn't mention that. There's a little tiny right over to my left to help me illuminate the canvas so I can see better what I'm doing. There's a light across from me so that you can see me a little bit better. But that's actually that's really not unusual, because frequently in most rooms, there's usually more than one light source anyway. And in fact, I'll show you when I'm about to paint the cast shadow, you'll see two different possibilities with that, or at least one section of it that's a little bit deeper than the other. So shadows, all of the things being equal, tend to be, there's frequently a lot of blue in shadows, and it's kind of a muddy blue. So I'm adding maybe a little bit of, some other touch of red, yellow. And from my view, it kind of goes up to the mid part of the left side of the apple. Comes down.
May I ask another question, please?
Of course.
Yeah. The primary light source which you're using, is that the warmer color or is it the white light? Which one are you?
Probably my primary light source for looking at the apple is the one coming from above me. It looks to be it's fairly white, probably a little on the warm side. Did that answer your question?
Yes. So I'm just wondering. Everything looks warm on the Zoom call here. So I was just wondering whether it's white light or the slightly warmer toned light. Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. And yeah, that will definitely make a difference. I have noticed, and if you've ever, for that matter, if anyone who's gone to a club and they have crazy different color lights going, it doesn't matter what color it's that light is shining on. The color of the light frequently has say over the color of the item that it's shining on. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that can be fun. I want to make this shadow just a little bit deeper. So I boosted that. I'm using, like I say, a little ultramarine blue and just a little bit of other things that are on my palette. Sometimes I'll mix colors right on the canvas, which is kind of fun. And that shadow comes to about there. And there's a bit of a corner right there. Pardon my thinking out loud. Bringing that. There we go. Okay. So it's a bit like that. Now that's the main thing of the shadow. Now immediately under the apple, as you might guess, that is a very dark area. There's really almost no light getting to that. So I'm going to go back to my, just a touch of the near black that I get with that. Because I really want to show that that apple's bright. There we go. Can do that again. So yeah, right under it, it's kind of like I'm lining immediately under it. And then also, because of the different light sources I have going on, this part of the shadow is actually darker. And I can see a distinct line. Restore that. Okay, so yeah, right here, because I do have light coming from this direction, coming down and making this part of the shadow, but I also have this little light over here coming from this direction and making this darker shadow. Because it's basically, it's two shadows that overlap. If I were to paint it out, I could actually paint an ultra pale shadow. And why don't I do that just for fun? It's actually paler. Let's see. A little bit more blue. Yeah, just a smidge. One thing I've noticed too is even the sharpest shadow, the edges tend to be just a little bit fuzzy. If you can, again, kind of trying to quickly catch. So do you see where I basically have two shadows that are overlapping because I've got two light sources going on. And I want to fuzz, whoops. Really inspires confidence when the person doing the demo goes, whoops, right? So, and I'm just creating a little bit of a bridge color. And again, this is not terribly well finessed, but I'm just so the edge of that shadow isn't super hard. Softens it just a little bit. Sure, I'm not, oh, not too bad. Okay. Let's see. So that's pretty basic. I'm trying to think of another way. I like to look for ways where I can make things even more pleasing.
Have you also placed the apple on a light pale yellow paper, or is it? You can't see the apple right now, so I'm just wondering.
Right. I'm sorry. The question was, did I place it on? It's just on the table next to me.
Oh, I see. Not on the pale yellow. Okay. So you just created the background yourself. I see. Right.
So, okay. Now, something else I'm seeing in shadows, lights and shadows that's the name of the game frequently. I am seeing as well a little, make that stem a little skinnier. Move it over just a hair because I see a little bitty shadow that the stem is casting on the apple way up here. And that certainly happens. See. Oh, and I'm just seeing more highlights and kind of grabbing those. There's a near white one right there. Now I could play with the color quite a lot, but I realized that I'm gonna lighten that up just a little bit. Now that the paint is dry, I could actually. There we go. Yeah, this is actually kind of a warmer, lighter color up there. And again, you can play with I don't have a lot of paint on my brush, so I can do a little bit of just a little bit of tiger striping. And please, if anyone has any questions, I'm kind of to tell you.
The way you have done this apple so easily, like I'm sure we will be struggling to do just one apple.
Well, like I say, this is very quick and dirty, and I'm actually making this, there we go. Sometimes it takes a few coats too, because as I say, some colors are not as opaque as others. And I feel like this could be prettier in terms of color, but let's see. Oh, so one other thing I wanted to show, may I do some screen sharing, Shubha?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and I see, I'm sorry, thank you. Whoops, I keep hitting the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Here we go.
Yeah, I'll put which one you'll be sharing. I'll put you right now. We are in. This is the spotlight.
Okay.
Come back to the other one. So
okay. Great. So I'm going to show you some paintings. Let's see. Hopefully this will work. Okay. So how do I? Nope. Trying to get back to, where am I? So what can you see right now? I think I may have not done this right.
Yeah, I think you're still not sharing anything. You have.
Trying to get to, let's see. Ah, there we go. Thank you. Shubha was kind enough to, help me through the technological part of this.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So
Okay. Okay, so this was a practice one that I did for this demo. Now that was a different apple too. It was more of a tiger stripe. It wasn't as deep a red. And then here are a couple of finished paintings that I did. So maybe I can, let's see. So some of the highlights, this was actually kind of a pale blue. Do you see this ring around this one right here?
yeah.
Yeah, and and this is a great example of backlight right here. This green apple is reflecting onto this apple, and that's why you're getting a little bit more kind of orange green almost onto that. But all surfaces just, bounce light off all kinds of things. It's really amazing. And it really gives things lots of personality.
Karen, did you use the same brush for all these, even the finer ones, the white,
well, for the demo, I seem to only have used the one small, I was using a filbert that was maybe 1/2 inch wide. When I do some really detailed work, then yeah, I will use smaller, tinier brushes. And my apologies, these photographs aren't very good. You can see there's glare on the canvas, but and this is a good example here of, we have the cast shadow and we have more than one light source. So this area right here is super dark. And same for under the wedge. This is really dark, but this is lighter. So it can be quite a lot of fun. And did anyone have any questions before I move away from that, or?
These are awesome.
Okay.
The
Oh,
painting,
yeah.
the reason I approached you, I mean, I saw your painting and it blew me away.
Oh, thank you kindly. I appreciate that. And there was something that let's see. I suppose I could. I didn't know if I'd have time or not. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. I will show you per the PDF that I created for this. Paintings. Okay. So in the PDF, I go through all the steps here that I talked about. And then the final one, I didn't know if I'd have time for it. Now this was kind of fun. I had some actual blue or lavender highlights at the very top of the apple. But if you want,
are you sharing?
Oops, I'm sorry. Nope. Technologically challenged. Okay. There we go. Share. Thank you. Okay, so if you want to add some drama, there's a nice way to do that by way of the background. And the short version is behind the lighter part of whatever object you're painting, make it darker to make that pop. And then the darker part of the object, you can back it with the lighter, like that. And I had a lot of fun doing that. It really, like I say, it lends some drama to it. You can play with what colors you like. Any other questions right now, or do you want me to, I don't know if you want me to keep playing with this one, or?
It'd be nice if you do the background also.
Sure. I wasn't sure if we'd have time. That went reasonably quickly, so.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to stop share. I'm going to go back to my Apple so I can see what I'm doing. Let's see. Shubha, I'll let you put the focus back on the painting.
Yeah, there is a question here by Namrata. Maybe you may want to answer that.
Okay, so.
Yeah, there's a question. Do you try to finish your painting in one go by trying to look at the subject in real life, or do you photograph it to finish your painting later on? That's a great question. So something like a still life is fairly forgiving. Well, maybe not flowers because they die, they die pretty quickly. An apple can hang around though, and something like this, I can usually finish in a couple of sessions. It's, this is not very big.
this canvas, for one thing, it's only 8 by 8. It's not very big. But I do frequently work from photos. One of the things I'm venturing into currently in my paintings are portraits, both of pets and people. I started with the pets, but then someone asked me, "Hey, could you do a painting of my grandchildren?" And obviously you can't really ask a dog to, "Oh, please hold that pose, don't move. Let me know if you need a break," So yeah, I do a lot of work from photos. I love the idea of painting landscapes plein air, but darn if that sun just doesn't keep moving and the light changes. And so yeah, I like to work from the real thing when I can, but yes, I do a lot of work from photos. Something like an apple, it's fine. Flowers, I might need to, because they do decay fairly quickly, I might use a photo from that. So let's see. Okay, so yeah, let me go ahead and because I already have some of that purple going, and it is such a pretty purple. I'm going to go a little bit bananas with that. And this is where it's really fun to mix paint right on the canvas. And right here where my brush is, I'm using the quinacridone magenta and the phthalo blue, which make that purple, but there's no white, so it still looks pretty darn dark. And maybe I should go to a slightly bigger brush. Excuse me a moment. Okay. Okay, so now I have a bigger filbert that I'm probably putting in the wrong place. And maybe I don't want that. I don't want that. This is a little too close to the apple color, so I'm going to make that bluer or muddier. How about, you know what? Let me go green, a little greener on that. And maybe I will play with that. So we have kind of muddy tones, but that's okay. They have their charm as well. And right now I'm mixing kind of a pale yellow so I can some yellow and white so I can blend into the thing. I don't necessarily want a sharp division between the lighter and the background. I mean, there's so many ways to do this. And sometimes this can be tricky because I'm kind of thinking as I go, which may or may not work beautifully. I'm going to use a lot of phthalo blue just because I want to be able to tell you something that I'm doing. One thing I've noticed that I want to be better about in my work too is sometimes when there's a very hard edge, it's not the most charming. So again, find that bridge color. So I'm grabbing some more of the quinacridone magenta and just a little on the edge to kind of soften that. And then just for fun, maybe way out here, away from the apple, I'll create that kind of purpley color. And again, I love to remind people that, perfect blending is not the be all end all. It's not always, it can be very expressive and bold when you see brush strokes. And I'm getting toward the pale area, so I'm grabbing some white and maybe some yellow. I have to admit, my approach to painting is keep painting till it looks right. Let's see. more of the blue here. Maybe just a little bit of, I'm sorry?
So relaxing to watch you color like
I'm glad you're relaxed. I do love painting. It can be therapeutic. And I have to admit, there are moments when I just want to break all my brushes and run screaming. So, okay. Okay. Yeah, let's stay. I'm going to stay with a little more dark, just close to the top of the apple. So this isn't that different from the one I showed you, I don't believe.
Okay, what happened? The looks like the camera tilted.
I didn't do anything.
Okay. Maybe you do have a battery low message coming.
Yeah, maybe the battery is going low.
Oh, let me take a look. Oh my goodness. My apologies. It stayed pretty well, how about this? You don't really need to see me, so I'll turn the computer perhaps to show you the painting.
Uh-huh.
I can get rid of that Medusa there.
Okay, maybe I can put you.
Well, hey, on the bright side, it happened now and not earlier. So
Yeah.
let's see.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, now you can see all your light sources too.
Yeah, you can see the apple also.
Yeah.
Whoops. Let's see. It's fine also to have a little bit of back and forth in make that green, go for a crazy green. It's fine to have a little bit of back and forth in your brush strokes. It doesn't have to be a perfect gradient. Again, I think it makes it very expressive. Little finger smear, haha. Da, 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 da. Phthalo blue is so gorgeous. It really is. Like I say, if you ever wanted to do a painting of a peacock, it would be perfect. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to grab some straight up white. Oops, a little more yellow. I don't want to reinvent what I've done so much, but there we go. And it might be nice also actually to have this a little bit lighter. I don't know if that's, you can see it very well, but kind of punches up the cast shadow to have a little more contrast. Contrast is a big deal when you paint.
Wow.
Okay. Alrighty, and you know, you as you might guess, yeah, there's quite a few ways to do that, and I really appreciate your patience. I wish I had better lighting and an actual studio and all that, but
This is awesome. We could see everything step by step.
Awesome. And lesson learned, I need to have my phone on a charger. Does anyone else have any questions? Is there any?
I have a question. So
Yes.
It's very interesting observation that the gradient you chose for the background was from the dark to light color, from the middle to the end. So typically, I'm a photographer. I would choose the bright in the middle and then go towards the dark in the end. But it's done very well right now. So I'm just wondering, is there a thought process behind using the dark color at the middle and then reducing the value as you are increasing the value as you go further out?
Oh yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for kind of making me aware of that. So because I think what you're getting at is typically when you work in oil or acrylic, you tend to work dark to light, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably because in this case, I was kind of hungry for that drama of the dark background all of a sudden, because everything was pretty light, and so there really wasn't anywhere to go. I wasn't really anticipating painting the foreground particularly different, but it just kind of ended up that way. The bottom was already fairly pale, so I was kind of shooting for the biggest differential. Mm-hmm. I could even add even more white if I wanted to. My light isn't very good, so I can't see exactly what the color is reading as so much right now. And again, obviously this is a very rough kind of thing. Did that answer your question?
Yes. What would you do for the hard transition from, let's say, apple to the background? Do you do any touch up on that one to change the transition or mellow it, or is you like the hard transition?
If I were going to make this a painting that I might exhibit, you mean like how do I soften some of the edges, kind of thing? Yes.
Okay. Especially on top of the stem, the transition from that red to the background. Yes.
Right. So, sometimes you do want sharp edges, but if I want to soften them, as I mentioned in some of the blending techniques that I use when I work with acrylic, I often create a bridge color. Let me see if I can do a little demo on that. For example, so right here, I did want that edge pretty solid, because it's like, you see the apple and then you don't see it because it's gone inside. Mm-hmm. But say right here where this green is versus that blue, yes. I might make a color that's kind of betwixt and between. So a little bit darker blue, and then I can kind of finger smear it a little bit, maybe grab just a little bit more blue, and then soften that a bit. And then you have a softer transition. Is that? So yeah, yes. That's one way to do it. As I mentioned, other ways that I might blend are you can do a wash, or you can have almost no paint on your brush and just kind of scumble a little bit. You can kind of see where that's it's giving a little bit of pigment, but it's not an absolute solid coat.
Yes.
Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
So when I try to do such things on the Photoshop or elsewhere, my biggest challenge would be to look for the hard transition, because that kind of transition doesn't give the 3D feeling, because in physicality the apple is actually slowly transitioning into the background, which is the dark color. So the hard transition is always a biggest challenge for right there.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, and you know what? Thank you for bringing that. That's kind of what I was trying to talk about a little bit earlier. One thing in my work that I don't like I have that. Yeah. So I can use the same technique. I can do a bridge color. Because I've noticed, especially when I do portraits, that if I do, let's see, is that the right color? That's not quite pale enough. I was noticing when I was doing portraits that sometimes if I have too hard an edge, it looks like a cardboard cutout.
Yes, yes, it
Yeah.
flattens out. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's something I'm kind of learning and figuring out. So yeah, but yeah, my approach to that, as what I'm attempting to do now, is just have a little bit of a bridge color there. And
I see.
yeah, and that looks a little bit better, I think, than what I had going on. This is still pretty sharp.
Okay.
Just
There
a
are
little feather touches. Pardon me?
There are two questions here.
Mhm.
Okay, Asha, your question was mixed magenta, hello blue. And for what? What was the for which one was it, Asha? Magenta, hello blue. Is it for the black color?
Was that the question? Was it for the black color?
Yeah, I'm asking. Okay, I was asking Asha who asked this question.
Yeah, actually the question was for the background.
For the background.
Like which three colors did you mix? Like magenta. Well. I'm sorry.
I did go for some of the black that I was talking about, which was the Naphthol red medium and the phthalo blue. And then this is pretty heavy on the phthalo blue by itself. And then when I wanted to go more purple, it was the phthalo blue and quinacridone magenta with some white to various degrees. And then over here, I just kind of added some yellow, made some muddy color. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm so sorry. Okay. So, yeah, this is fairly heavy.
Thank you.
Phthalo, yeah. And then for the really, really dark, that's where I did that black, the Naphthol red medium with the phthalo blue. And then for the more violet tones, I use the phthalo blue with quinacridone magenta and various degrees of white. And then started adding some more yellow and white and a little blue to transition into some green. This was, I think this was mostly the quinacridone magenta with some white and a little bit of some other muddied colors that I had going on with that. It's interesting. I started, as you remember, with kind of a pale gold background. And if you ever want to if you're painting, say, some gold metal, the average, the main tone of it, you're going to use a lot of different colors, but the main tone, it's funny how much green there is in a gold color. You know, it's not orange, it's not yellow. There's like a very, very, if it's like a very yellow green, and then you add a tiny, tiny bit of red, just a dot of red to muddy it. But there's a lot of green in gold metal color. It's not quite as orange as we tend to think of it. Certainly, definitely, if it's more antique gold, especially. I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah,
I like that vibrant blue in the background, actually.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous blue. I love that.
Yeah.
We'll take one last question.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm not pressed for time, so I'm happy to. Yep.
Vishaka, this is Vishaka's question. Do you want to read out, Vishaka?
I'm sorry, say again?
Sure. I asked, you did the painting in one go, not much layering. Is it possible because you're using the heavy bodied paint, which is highly pigmented, or is that just your style?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the painting and you may not be able to see it as well, but I can still see places that they're covered, but I can still see canvas texture. So chances are I would probably go over with another coat. Broadly speaking, again, acrylics are an opaque medium, but if you've got like a little more water than you needed, or perhaps the color itself is a little transparent, you might need to go over with a couple of coats, and you know, more layers is usually good. And again, I mean, this was a demo, obviously, and I was you know, limited to a certain amount of time. But if I were to make this a proper painting, I'd certainly probably tweak it a bit more. I don't care to look at I don't mind flat work. I don't tend to do impasto painting so much, but I don't want to be aware of the canvas texture when I look at a painting.
Right.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, that answered my
Golden Brand acrylics are really good. I mean, they're a wonderful brand, but still, we tend to work with a little bit of water when we use when we paint with acrylic. So.
Yeah, so great demo, Karen. All of us enjoyed. There was a lot of learning.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My pleasure. And thank you so much again for having me. And I really enjoyed seeing everybody's work. That was a lot of fun. So,
Karen, just one question. Do you happen to know Nina Ukaluru or Iona Izaki or Rajiv Khilnani?
I don't. There are a lot of artists in Sacramento.
Right. No, these are from Falk. And I somehow I remember that we either have you done the demo in the past for Falk, or you were the member of Falk, or
me?
Yeah. I have seen your work before, and that's how I kind of know you. So I know you from Falk past demos.
I've never been a member of Falk, but
you might have demoed for us, because I've been with Falk for 12 years, and past demo artist, I think so. I have seen your demo before. That's why I approached you.
Oh, well, I'm sure I haven't, but I used to teach at the Painted Cork. I don't know what to tell you. And that's in Sacramento. Well, I taught in Folsom. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, maybe someone with a similar style.
Yeah. So thanks, Karen, and also thanks, Janki, for finding Karen for us, to give us the demo. So
Pleasure to meet you all. Thank you so much again for having me, and I appreciate your patience.
Always pleasure.